Hi, I'm Elaine. Welcome to my podcast channel. Hi, Miss Lindenstrauss. How are you today?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. And do you think that mathematical competency, like basically how one is really good at math, do you think it's associated with intellectual competency, or maybe someone has high IQ and maybe that person's smart, so that's why he's
I hate that. I hate this idea of math as a measure of IQ and IQ as a measure of intelligence. I think that's related to a lot of the bad attitudes. I wish we didn't think that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, different people are smart in different ways, and if they try harder at different things, they will do better at those things. And it comes more easily to some, for sure. But if motivation and perseverance help too, and yeah, I mean, that's, I think, maybe the thing that scares the kids who think they're not good at math. They just think they don't know the answer to some question, and they think that the question measures how intelligent they are, and they're not intelligent, and therefore they avoid these questions in the future, and it's some kind of horrible positive feedback loop in the bad direction.
Yeah, for sure.
So we really don't want to think those. I mean, it's true that a lot of tests that people use have math questions, but somehow, but no, there are very intelligent people who find math difficult, and we all know them. And we really shouldn't measure people by how good they are at math.
Yeah,
that's a silly idea.
Yeah, I guess because a lot of people maybe find math hard, but really, as a human, there's so much parts to the brain. Maybe someone's really artistic and another person's not artistic at all, but very logically competent, or is really, really good at math, but not good at painting, something like that.
Yeah. And I've met people who are very good with logic and complicated deductions and are scared of numbers. If you put it in numbers, they...
Yeah, for sure. What are normally your teaching methods at university? Do you normally handwrite the math formulas, or you prepare a PowerPoint to showcase your lectures, or both?
No, I like traditional board lectures. I think I understand things better that way. So for one thing, if you're writing things yourself, you're doing it at human speed, and then the students can absorb it in human speed. And the more you say it and write it, they can see this is the thing that you think is important. And, you know, I really want to get things as much through the human channel as possible. And I think Blackboard lectures are, I mean, I've taught other ways when I had to. And certainly in math conferences, there's this kind of conference we have where you get 20-minute talks. So 20-minute talks I do with transparencies because they're sort of fast. But if it's possible, I really like the human speed, the human the presentation through the human.
Yeah, so more like I would say that your method is more human connection, and less like because we have AI right now, everything's technological, but I think you prefer this one-on-one human-to-human connection.
Oh, one-on-one is wonderful, but even if I have a class, I really prefer writing myself on a blackboard.
Yeah.
And when I hear lectures, I really prefer it when the person writes on the blackboard.
Yeah, especially if you have just a bombardment of information presented on a PowerPoint. It's like, oh, what is this about?
Exactly.
Hard to follow. Yeah, exactly. For sure. And how many students do you have per class?
Oh, it really depends. So in the graduate classes, sometimes it's less than 10. Undergraduate classes, but again, I mean, I don't know, there was one class I taught once, and I had 40 something, and then next time I taught it was like 15. It really varies. You can't, I mean, to run a class, if it's graduate, we need at least 5, and if it's undergraduate, we need at least 10.
Yeah.
But but like when we teach regular first year science, calculus, then it's like 60-ish or 70-ish.
Mm-hmm. So it's a really large classroom. So compared to large classes and small classes, which environment do you prefer and which one's more easier to teach, do you think?
Oh, I think small classes are easier and better. It's just
Mm-hmm.
money for the university, but I mean, I think students really benefit from having the instructor look at them and try to see if they understand or not. And they say, oh, well, okay, I'm being looked at. I guess I should figure out whether I'm understanding. I mean, they feel much more committed to participating in lecturing in the class if they, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if people see what they're doing and expect them to understand and are there to help them if they don't understand. So
yeah, for sure. And I think that in a smaller room, it's sort of like more engaging. Like I'm not the one who mixes up with 70 or 100 other people. And
yeah.
I think so in your 70, like you as you mentioned, in a 70 people class, do you think there are students who raise their hands to speak up, or are there much engagement in your large classes?
Well, on 70, yeah, there are people who raise their hands. It's often the same ones, but one tries to. I don't like, when I was a student, I wouldn't like having people call on me randomly. So
Yeah.
I don't call on people randomly, but I love it when people, different people participate. But even if it's always the same ones, if it's somebody who's willing to show that they don't understand something, usually there's many other people who don't understand it, and they appreciate that.
They appreciate that person who asks their questions.
Yeah, they do. And I appreciate it. It also slows me down. It makes things more.
Mm-hmm.
It shows me where people want more support. So
Yeah, for sure. I think that really makes sense. So another question about regarding math clarity, especially writing a math paper. How do you think one should make their math proof as clear as possible, like formatting or the structure in math language?
formatting is not too dense. I mean, basically, I think more people err on the side of omitting details. Well, with my students, I tell them that when they write homework, they can say that things are obvious if I call them on it, then they will immediately start explaining to me why it's true without having to think. Now, it might take them 2 days, but they won't have to think. And if they have to think why it's true, and they won't be able to just start telling me why it's true, then they can't just say it's obvious. You should think very clearly. And once you think very clearly, then you're probably going to write it in an okay way. And there's still the question of what level, how many details you should fill in. But the correct answer there is you imagine who your audience is and try to figure out what level of detail. I mean, within good papers, there are papers that are more detailed and papers that are less detailed.
Mm-hmm. It's always better to add as much detail and description as possible, because a lot of people think that, oh, this is so repetitive. And
no, it's not always. No, it's a fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I prefer to err on the side of too much detail. And maybe some people don't like that, but that's my personal. But you can't write every detail. I mean, you have to have your audience in mind. And if there's things that are going to be obvious to your audience, then they don't need to be spelled out in detail. But you shouldn't use the fact that you don't want it to be too detailed as a shortcut to avoid thinking clearly about what exactly it is that you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't think clearly before you write, it's not going to come out good.
Yeah. Are there any math books that you, in particular, you really enjoy that you recommend for high school students or undergrads or postdocs or anyone out there that you find really helpful?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think just a nice. So I really like for honors program. I really like things that have proofs. So I think just linear algebra with proofs. There are many books who do that, or calculus with proofs, like the beginning of an analysis. There's a book called Baby Rudin.
Yeah.
So reading a introductory text with proofs slowly about a subject like elementary calculus or like linear algebra is a really nice place to start.
Mhm.
It doesn't assume much, and you really, and you know, people are used to reading like lots of books for their humanities courses, and I think, okay, I'm going to read a book a week or whatever. No, you
Yeah.
won't, and that's okay. If you learn something, if you spend time and you learn something, then that's great. And if you take a semester and you read a chapter in a book and you understand it, that's great.
Mhm. Yeah, I think even do you prefer reading like 5 or 6 math books at a time, or do you think that nowadays students should read math books 1 at a time instead of having 5 or 6 books at a time and they read it together?
Well, sometimes there's subjects that are treated by a couple of books and they're different in their approaches, and you can understand a bit from the one book and then bring it to the other book and go back and forth. So certainly there are situations where I was trying to read something, so understand something, and had several papers and go back and forth between them, and that helped. Reading whole math books is a big job. People don't do it so much, but when you're more advanced, like when you're taking a class, then often there's the main textbook and some supplementary books. And sometimes I when I teach a class, I teach from the book that I think is best, but I give the students a bunch of other books which different people learn differently. That's another important thing about math. Different people learn differently, and maybe the other books work better for them. And sometimes people were really excited about books that I just stuck on the list because I thought, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, whatever works. But if you're not taking a course, often people are motivated by what interests them, and they find it some later stage in a book, and then maybe they need to read up to that point in order to understand that, but maybe they won't read the rest of it. Or some people are very disciplined and they can read books, and I admire that. I'm more the kind of person who finds what I need, and then I try to read the earlier stuff so I understand how they did that.